Okay, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to try to create our own functions. These are what are known as user-defined functions. Functions which you yourself as a Python user create and use for solve your own problems. Okay. Python as a programming language. Any programming language is a tool which you are supposed to use to talk to your computer so that the computer can actually do things for you. So there has to be a way in which you should be able to tell your computer what you want to do. The functions we have looked at, say Python comes with 68 built-in functions and all the method it comes with, those are not enough. Okay? So there is actually a provision for you to actually make your own functions. So what you're going to look at tonight, you're going to look at a couple of things. Okay? Just a few things. We're going to look at how to create your own function or functions. Then once you've created a function, how do you use that function? That is calling a function. Then we're going to see how to pass information to a function in two ways, using something called parameters and also using something called arguments. We have seen what arguments are before when we're looking at built-in functions. An argument is a piece of information you give a function as you are calling it. Then you're also going to see, to try to see the following: how to return a value or set of values from a function. Okay, how to return a value or set of values from a function. When you give a function information, you want this function to give you back something in return. Is this clear? So we're going to look at that. I think let's not be ambitious because we are starting very late as far as I'm concerned. So let's try to focus on these. At least we do something. Okay. So creating a function. Now, the functions you create yourselves, those are what you call user-defined functions. So when you create a function as a user of Python, that function you're creating, that's what you're calling a user-defined function. You have to tell Python to say, Python, look, I want to create a function. Okay? And for you to tell Python to say you want to create a function, you have to use this word, def, which is short for define. So when you start creating a function, the first thing you do is you type def, which is define. So when Python says def, Python knows that you want to create a function. Okay? So def define, then this def is going to be followed by the name of the function you want to create. Any function, as we have seen so far, functions have got names. So you start with def, then next, the name of the function you want to create. Is it maximum, minimum, length, print, type? What is the name of the function you want to create? The name of the function you want to create should give the you who is creating the function and also the other people who are going to use your function an idea of what your function does. Are we clear? The name of the function should give the person who is using the function and also other people who are going to use your function an idea of what the function does. For example, right now we have used the print function, we have used the type function, we have used the length function, we have used all sorts of functions. We did not create those functions. Some other people did create those functions. However, from the names of those functions, we have a very good idea of what we think this function does. So the name of your function should convey to the user of that particular function what they should expect. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes. The name of the function should tell the person what they should expect. Then after the name of the function, then you have these parentheses. In these parentheses, this is where you are going to tell Python, when you're creating a function, you're going to tell Python what type of information it should expect for this function, or whether this function should expect no information at all. Then after the parentheses, there should be a colon to tell Python, say, okay, fine, you have defined the name of the function, then you have also told Python what information this function should expect. Are we clear?
Yes.
Next, after the colon, now Python is ready for you to tell it what your function is going to do. Are we clear? Python is ready for you to tell it what your function is supposed to do. One of the first things we do when we are creating a function is to add a string in triple quotation marks. Okay? One of the first things we add, after we have said what the name of the function is, what kind of information that function should expect, one of the first things we do is we add a string in triple quotes, 3 quotation marks, whether they're 3 single quotation marks or 3 double quotation marks. That string in triple quotation marks is called a doc string or doc strings. This is where we describe what the function does. So the description, a brief description of what your function does, we put it in these triple quotation marks. The triple quotation marks are what the help function reads. Remember when you said help something? When you're looking for help on a function, you say help, then inside the help function, the parentheses, that's where you put the name of the function, right? So if this function is there, then the help you're going to get will be in the triple quotation marks. This is where you can explain what the function does, or even you can also give examples of how that function actually works. Okay, then after the triple quotation marks, then you start doing all this Python you've been doing. You tell us what this function does, like that. Okay, so these functions created by people are a lot. They are in their millions. People have created a lot of functions based on what they need. Whether you are an accountant, you work in finance, or you're an engineer, or you are a scientist, you do biology, all these things, with many things. People have created user-defined functions for Python for all those things. Okay? So user-defined functions are actually a lot. But there are certain guidelines to which this thing is. Whenever you're going to create a function, there are certain guidelines which have to be followed. The one thing is, which is true about all functions, is a function needs to do something. Okay? Your function needs to do something. Otherwise, if you try to create a function, then that function does not do anything, then you're simply wasting your time. It's a useless function you're trying to create. Then, are we clear?
Yes.
When you create a function, that function should do something. Okay, let us see how we're going to create a function called square. Now, this function called square does exactly what the name of the function says. It squares something, then it gives you a result. For example, here, this is how I tell Python I want to create a function. So I type def. As you can see, the def is blue. Okay, then after a def, there's a space. Next, followed by square. Square is the name of the function. Okay, so def, then space, then square. Square is the name of the function. Then after the name of the function, we put parentheses. In these parentheses, this is where we tell Python expect some information or expect no information. At this particular moment, there is no information which has been put here. So Python does not expect any information from us about square. Then at the end, you put a colon there. So you have told Python, okay, this is the name of the function, and this function does not expect information. Done. Are we clear? That's the first part. Is that clear?
Yes.
Rachel?
Very clear, sir.
The next part is this triple quotation business. This triple quotation business. That's the next part. This triple quotes. Now, for you to get these triple quotes, you need to type your quotation marks, the quotation button, 3 times. When you press it 3 times, then these quotation marks are going to come. Your triple quotation marks are going to come. When you type them 3 times, for example, 1, 2, 3. See? There they have. So they come. When you do them 3 times, they count. So inside these triple quotation marks, I put this string, prints out the square of 2. So this is a description of what this function does. Just in plain English, you describe what your function does. Okay? This is an important part of a function, so that a person who comes across your function, they see, okay, this is what this function does. Are we clear? Next, you carry out whatever operation your function does. Here, the comment, calculate the square of 2, and that square of 2 is stored in this variable, power. So you see, power, this power, we know what power is. Power is a built-in function. So power 2, 2, that is 2 raised to the power 2. Okay? Is that clear? 2 raised to the power 2, that is 4. Then the result, which is 4, we store it in this variable sq. Then after storing it in the variable sq, we print out, we say print out sq, which is here, print sq. Are we clear? What's going on here?
Yes.
Yeah, so we tell Python we want to create a function called square. That's the name of the function. This function called square does not accept anything. Then we conclude. Then after that, you press enter. Then you can see, oh, there's a space. There's this space. Okay, this space is called indentation. Indented. This space shows you which lines are part of the function. All these lines are part of the function, which are equally spaced from DEF like that. So now we run this. Okay, Python doesn't complain. Then we ask for help on square. Say help, the help function, then square. When you ask for help on square, this is what is printed. Help on function square in module main. Square, the name of the function and the kind of information it accepts. No information here, as you can see. Then the next is, this is printed out. Prints out the square of 2. This is this. Prints out the square of 2. That's what help reads. This bit, the rest of the function, you don't see it. The rest of the function is not shown to you in the print, in the help function. Are we clear?
Yes.
This is for the particular reason that when it comes to functions, it is none of your business to know how a function does something. The only thing you need to know as far as the function or other people's functions are concerned is what information do I give this function and what is it going to do with this information. Are we clear?
Yes.
Right now, the description of what the square function does is that it's going to give you the square of 2. And we don't show you how that square of 2 is going to be worked out. Okay? after you have created a function like we have done, we have created the function square, the next thing you have to do is you have to use the function. Is that clear? When you use a function, we say you are calling the function. Okay? Depending on whether that function accepts information or not, then the way you're going to call the function is going to be different. But one thing is common. When you call a function, you start with the name of the function. Okay? When you call a function, you start with the name of the function. You type the name of the function followed by the parentheses. In these parentheses, this is where you're going to put the information which is required by the function for it to work or for it to perform a specific task. Okay? In this case, in our case with print here, when we're creating print, we told Python we didn't put anything here in the parentheses. That is a way of telling Python, do not expect any information from the user when they call this print function. Okay? So when we run this function call square, we get 4. Which is good, isn't it? It carries out this operation. The power of 2 to the power 2, then it stores it in square, then it prints out square. You get a 4. When you run it again, you get a 4 again. When you run it again, you get a 4. So you can see something here. As much as our function square works, every time we are running it, it's only giving us 4. It's only printing out 4. It squares a number, yes. It squares some number which we don't know, which is 2. But every time we run it, it gives us the same output, 4, 4, 4. So it works, yes, but it has got a limitation. Okay? Because if you try to square, if you try to give this function, if you try to give it the number 3 so that it carries out the square of 3 to the power 2, which is 9. If you try to do that, you get a mistake. You get an error. And what does Python say about this error? It says the function square takes 0 positional arguments, but 1 was given. This is a fancy way of saying the function square does not accept any piece of information. That is the 0 positional argument. A positional argument is a piece of information which is given to a function during a function call. Okay? That's what Python is saying. It's saying, I was told, it's like, this guy, square, does not accept any information, but 1 piece of information was given. You see that? Have we seen this?
Yes.
So this is a major limitation.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a very, very big limitation to what our function square can do. It only works for 2. It doesn't work for any other number. Okay. However, we can do something about this, because we can go back to Python and tell it, okay, Python, we are not happy about what you did earlier. Forget about it. We're going to create a new function square which is going to accept information. Is that clear? We're going to go and create a new function square which will accept information. Now, the information you give to a function is in 2 parts. There is information called a parameter. There is also information called arguments. Parameters and arguments are given to a function at different times. When you are creating a function, when you are doing this, during creation, when you're creating a function, okay, when you're doing this, when you're creating a function, then you tell Python, expect a piece of information by putting some variable here, whatever it is here in the parentheses. During creation, you tell Python, okay, this is the name of the function, and for this function to work properly, this function will expect the following information from the user. So the information you give the function during creation, are we clear? The information you give a function during creation, that is what is called a parameter. Okay? The information you give a function during creation, that is what's known as a parameter. You can give a function multiple pieces of information during creation. Say, okay, you should expect a name, you should expect age, you should expect a number, or you should expect, you can give a function multiple pieces of information during creation depending on what you are trying to accomplish or what task you're trying to do. Is that clear?
Yes.
Parameters are given to a function when you're creating them. The other piece of information is this, an argument. Arguments are given to a function during a call. When you're calling a function, then you give this function a piece of information because now the function has already been created. So Python is aware about the existence of this function. Okay? When you give a function during a call like this, the way we tried to give the function a number 3, this 3 which we tried to give the function, this is what's referred to as an argument. Is that clear?
Yes.
And that's where this thing comes in here. 0 positional arguments. Yeah, it looks like the point here is it is an argument here. Okay? But you can see there's also something called position.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, me, I'm not very clear on the 0 position and yeah, I think I'm not clear.
Right now, the point is when you're calling a function, when you want to use a function you've created, okay? We have created the function square, then you give it a piece of information. So you want to use this function, then you give it a piece of information. That piece of information you have given it is called an argument. Forget about the position right now. What you're trying to discuss here is what's the difference between a parameter and an argument. An argument is a piece of information you give to a function during a call. During the time you're trying to use that function, when you give that function information, that information you're giving it, that's what's called an argument. When you're creating a function, then you're telling Python, I am creating a function, this is the name of the function, and these are the pieces of information this function should expect. It should expect a name, it should expect an age, it should expect this, it should expect the country of origin, it should expect how many children you have, it should expect how much money you have in a bank account. All these pieces of information which a function should expect when it's called, that's what we call parameters. Are we clear? Forget about the positional part. Just focus on the argument. Because clearly, as you can see, positional argument, positional is, I think, if my English doesn't fail me very much, what you call an adjective. Something which describes, you put in front of something, like very big or very small or whatever it is. You understand? Positional is an adjective here. It's a it's a thing. It's something we use to describe something. I don't know whether it's like that. So the point here is not positional. The point here is argument. What is an argument? Once we know what an argument is, then it will become very easy for us to describe what a positional argument is. An argument is a piece of information you give to a function during a call. Okay? A parameter is a piece of information you give to a function during its creation. Is that clear? Is the difference clear there?
Yes.
So, let us see. So we decide to tell Python, okay, we're not happy about the previous square function we created. We are going to create a new one. So you see something here. If you're not happy about the previous function you've created, you have to create a new one from scratch. You can't modify the existing one. You have to create a new one from scratch, which is going to replace the old one. So we say def again. Then the name of the function is square. Okay? So the name of the function stays the same, square. Then we tell Python you should expect one number, and whatever piece of information number, then that number is what is going to be used to work out the square. Then we finish with a colon at the end there. Then you press enter. Then here we describe what this function is going to do now. Prints out the square of number. Then whatever number someone is going to put when they call this function, when you call square, like in this case, then you pass in a piece of information 3. That 3, this 3, is going to be stored in number. Okay? The 3 which the person is going to pass to a function when they call the function, that 3 is going to be stored in number. Then after the 3 has been stored in number, then we work out number to the power 2. That's a square. Then we store it in square. Then we print out square. Is this clear? This number is telling Python expect one piece of information. This number is a parameter. Okay? This number will be squared here. Whatever is stored in number will be squared here. So we get the square, then we store it in SQ, then we print out SQ. Is this clear?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay, so we run this. Good. Then we ask for help on what square does this time around. Okay, says prints out the square of number. That's what it does. And how do you use square? You say square, then inside the brackets here, inside the parentheses, you give it a value, and it's saying this value should be a number, only one. Okay, so if this time around, remember this one worked previously, right? Where I just said square, then with nothing. This one worked, it printed out 4. This time around, because we have changed things, when you say square with nothing there, it refuses. It tells you there's an error. Python tells you square missing one required positional argument number. So Python now tells you, say, look, I have been told to expect a piece of information called number here. That's what Python says. I've been told to expect a piece of information called number. Once I get this number, I'm supposed to square it using the power function. Then the result, I'm supposed to store it in SQ. Then I'm supposed to print out SQ. That's what Python is saying there. So it's unable to do that. It's unable to carry out this task because this piece of information called number has not been provided. Are we clear?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you tell Python, don't expect information from me, then you proceed to give information to Python after you have said don't expect information. You're going to land yourself in problems. If you tell Python, expect one piece of information as from anyone who is trying to use this function, then you don't provide that information, then again you land yourself in problems. Python will not get tired of this. Python enforces the rules. Are we clear? It even goes further to tell you what kind of mistake you've made, to say, I was expecting a number, but you didn't give me any. So now we try to give it something. For example, we try to call square with 5. We say square, then we give it the value 5. If we do that, square 5, we get 25. You see this? It doesn't give us 4. Now it gives us 25. So what happened? This 5, this is what is called a function call. This is what we have here. This is a call. You are trying to use a function. When you're trying to use a function, then we say you are calling a function. Okay? Are we clear?
Yes.
You are calling a function when you're trying to use a function. So this 5 here, that is the argument. That is the piece of information you give square when you're trying to use it. The information you give a function when you're trying to use it, that is what we call an argument. Are we clear?
Clear.
This argument 5 is stored in this thing here. It's stored in number. Okay, that 5 is going to be stored in number. So the number, the variable number, excuse me. Just a minute. The recording paused. Okay. Next, when you call Python, okay, when you call Python with more than the required number of arguments, subtract requires 2 arguments, positional arguments. Then you call Python with 3. You can guess what happens. You get an error. And what does Python say? Subtract takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given. Okay, so subtract got the first value 20, it stored it in first number, then it got the second value 7, it stored it in second number. Then to the surprise of Python, Python gets the 10, then it looks for where to store it, then it can't find where to store it. So it generates an error and say, no, there's a problem. This function doesn't work like this. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Next bit is, you see, when you're doing this, Python is assuming, okay? Python is assuming that you want 20, the first value, to be stored in the first parameter. You want 7, which is second value, to be stored in the second parameter. Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe what you want is, regardless of the order in which you give the numbers, like this or like this, okay? The 20 should be the first number, the 7 should be the second number, so that regardless of the order in which the information is provided, the answer to the subtract should always come out as 13. Is what I'm trying to say clear? Maybe you who is doing you as the user, what you want to do is 20 minus 7 regardless of the order, so that the answer comes out 13. For you to do such a thing, for you to accomplish such a task, what you need to do is to tell Python explicitly. When you call subtracts, like in this case, you have to tell Python explicitly, I want you to store my 20 in first number. I want you to store 7 in second number. This can be done where you explicitly tell Python where to store each argument. The argument 20, you want it stored in first number. The argument 7, you want it stored in second number. You can explicitly tell Python this. When you tell Python like that, Python does not have to guess. You get your 13. You can also do the same thing. You can swap things around. You start with second number. Say, in second number, I want you to store 7. In first number, I want you to store 20. Now you can see we have swapped the order. Okay, but we have explicitly told Python this is what we want. Store the 7 in second number, store the 20 in first number, regardless of how they come. When you do that, you get to 13. What we have done here, by explicitly telling Python, store the first number, the second number, store the 7 in the second number, store the 20 in the first number. These are what are called keyword arguments. Are we clear?
Yes.
This is what is called a keyword argument. Keyword arguments are very, very important because, one, they make things very clear about where things are supposed to be stored. Okay? Keyword arguments make it very clear where pieces of information are supposed to be stored. Positional arguments, on the other hand, they make assumptions to say the first value argument we've been given in a function call should be stored in this first parameter. But maybe that's not what you want. Is that clear?
Yes.
So this is the difference between a positional argument and a keyword argument. Okay, so we have run out of time. So today we stop here. We are going to continue this hopefully tomorrow. Okay, unless you've got any questions, but today we have to stop here.
No questions. Thank you so much.
All right, so see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hopefully tomorrow we'll start at our usual time. Then starting next week, the Thursday class is going to be cancelled. So as we go further and further, we'll have to reduce how many times we meet.
Okay.
Yeah, so starting next week, Thursday is cancelled. So Thursday you're going to have a free night.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we are done here. Okay, so I'll stop.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, have a good night. All right, cheers.